나무 묘호랭개교 나무 묘호랭개교 나무 묘호랭개교 Welcome back. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. The fourth noble truth. Before I get into the fourth noble truth, let it be known that these four, the first, second, third, and now the fourth, they're all provisional teachings. This is very early Buddhist teaching. So it's important that you know that, because if you go to my website, threefoldlotus.com, you will find on the threefoldlotus.com/home/home HTM page, or from the link on the first page to core study materials, you'll get a page of some 50 links, one of them being the Four Noble Truths. Also, Myoho Renge Kyo, what is a Buddhist? All these central questions we all have when we're starting out, and sometimes revisit. I have posted many papers, PDF research papers from all over the place that I've collected over 40 years of scholarship. And they're freely available for you to download and dig into this stuff if that's the kind of research you like to do. I've provided a lot of, some are links, but most of them are actual papers. You can, just like this multi-page paper right here on the Four Noble Truths. And you'll learn that the meaning of the Four Noble Truths, how they're utilized, in other words, in the teachings, varies from early understandings to those people's capacity to later developments, from Hinayana to, and Hinayana traditions cover, depends on the map, which map you use. Theravada is sometimes identified as its own creature. For instance, the insight of the four truths is in Theravada particularly seen as its own method of insight. Tibetan goes a little different from this, not unlike Theravada, but it's more of a Mahayana provisional teaching, and it leads to 5 ways of cultivating Buddhahood. But I'm strictly speaking giving you the short call on the first, second, third, and fourth, just to familiarize yourself with the roots of where this teaching started to penetrate the nature of mind, body, self, and everything as unseparated, as consequential of the same forces, the same energies. The idea that we're distinguished, different things, labeled, and so forth, is just a mental construct built of the same thing life is built of. Is this wonderful word I came up with of combinatory, the way things gather and accrue to build from energy to mass to particles to molecules to chemistry to biology to you and I and mind. It's all connective tissue for everything we experience. But in this human experience, the way we perceive, we identify everything as different and distinct, but that is an illusion. That is where suffering grabs a foothold, because It can never be satisfied. That's a form of suffering. It can never be attained. That's a form of suffering. It can never be made permanent because every single thing, on down to its most fundamental energies, is constantly changing, evolving, decaying, and disappearing from its physical form, right? And we confront this right away when we try to identify where is the mind. The Buddha has this dialogue back and forth with Ananda in the, I'm probably going to say the wrong, I think it's in, no. Is it in the Satipatthana or is it in the Surangama? I forget which sutra, but he has this back and forth with Ananda about where is this mind. And definitely is not in the body. So there's this struggle of where is the physical and where is the mental, or some might say spiritual, but that word has so much charisma. I'd rather mental. We know what a mental exercise is, right? And how we use our minds. We just know it. So I don't want to dissect that too much. But it's interesting that it's certainly a part of Buddhist scholarship, right? Anyway, all of that is to say that when we get to the fourth noble truth, Magga, it is basically an early answer, direction, more like, to what the previous three basic truths are noble truths, right? We know that the process of life is perceived by the samsaric mind, our physical mind, not the mind itself, but our physical alertness, cognition, perception of mind is itself an illusion in that they are not the same. That the process of life and the perception of life have to be decoupled. And until they're decoupled in that first noble truth, all perception is a form of suffering because everything cannot be permanent, can't be made satisfied, we can't possess it ultimately. And in and of itself, it has no permanent nature. It itself is not permanent and has no self-nature, right? But we can get down these rabbit holes and keep researching and going. The point is, and you're welcome to do so, by the way, I'm not telling you not to, but what I'm saying is that we can talk in circles forever and never progress from here. And what's important is that you get the idea that by the second noble truth, Shakyamuni is identifying that these two things are actually not coupled. We couple them, and this is why we have dukkha. We have a life that is destined to fall short, to never attain what we think we should attain. It's suffering in some form. It's a letdown, or it's pain, or it's physical pain, or whatever. But life and its process, which is all-encompassing of all phenomena, not just your life, my life, but the life of this microphone, this computer, the grass, the trees, your pet, the planets, the universe, is all constantly in flux and living out, if you will, this process of manifestation of which you and I and our minds are just temporary windows. So that's what the first and second noble truth tell us. The third noble truth says, look, if you want to live this life, this samsaric existence that's so brief and thereby super special, an amazing opportunity to see what's going on in this entirety of the universe, which we don't have equipment to see, we barely understand. If you want to have your maximal attention and awareness and really experience that life fully, then you need to decouple your attachments, your causes for hanging on, possessing, dukkha, your clinging, your craving to making things permanent, to identification, to distinguishing everything, to including your own self, because your self is just a temporary construct of your imagination to handle your window of viewing this entirety of what is the life process. That's hard to get your head around, isn't it? But that's what Buddha is saying, is if you want to experience, liberate yourself from everything that you hang on to, ideas, concept, things. Don't burn it all. It's not about annihilation. It's not about get rid of it. It's about see it and enjoy it from a different perspective. Shift your perspective to the clear and observing, enjoying, participating mind of Buddha. That's what Buddha is. It's that completely clear and unattached perceptive mind. You have it. It's part of life. It's part of the process of life. It's just that we put all these attachments and identifications and all of this stuff in the way. It's obfuscating what naturally, if we were completely objective, would just see in a magnificent way. What a wonderful way to be, right? So the fourth noble truth is, how the heck do you do that? How do you detach, delaminate yourself from all of these samsaric identities, wants, desires, cravings, clinging, security, right? Your security is already there. You're here right now. You're secure. If you're not secure in the next moment, ask yourself, what changed? What changed always will be some kind of attachment, some kind of clinging, desire, want. There's nothing to want. In fact, wanting is an enjoyable observation of how humans exist. Everything exists. Your dog wagging its tail wants, desire, clinging. It makes you laugh. It makes you joyful because you're observing it rather than taking it in and just churning what it is, what it isn't, why I can't have it, why I can have it, and it's going to be dissatisfying. I know it's not going to be great. This constant craving. Buddha called it the monkey mind, right? It's like a whole grove of trees full of monkeys, all screaming and yelling for you to pay attention to that one monkey. It's so important. None of us are that important. But our perception of how amazing and vast the life process is, that's the only thing of real importance. If you miss it, then you've lived for nothing. You've lived with suffering. Many people have, many people will, and you can live that way. But is it really a fulfilling life? Is it an amazing life? You know, in our modern times, we're taught constantly propaganda, commercials, the economy. Everything is about somehow creating something new or amazing, and somehow you will climb to the top and you will finally reach a pinnacle of whatever. All of it are just, what's the song go? Castles in the sand. They're just fleeting. They're like waves on the ocean. You know, waves are not distinct things. They just appear as a function of the ocean, right? So because there's a great wave, that's amazing. But it doesn't last. It's just the ocean. It's another aspect of ocean, right? Detach from all of that avarice. So, what's the path? How in the heck do we do that? Thanks, Shakyamuni. Thanks. Just stop doing that and everything will be great. So, he followed that up and actually says it in the Fourth Noble Truth. Follow the Eightfold Path, the Noble Eightfold Path. Oh, crap, more numbers, more things to do. The Eightfold Path. I have another document posted on my website. You can go and read it for yourself. It digs into so much that I just don't want to read all of this to you. It will just be, it gets pedantic. But the highlights are basically this. He outlines 8 essential things to kind of guide the way you live your life. So, by attempting to have what's called right view, or right resolve, or right speech, or right conduct and action, right? These are the names, the highlights, if you will, of the Eightfold Path. Right livelihood, right effort. What the heck is right effort, right? Right mindfulness, right samadhi, or right concentration. That's about chanting, or meditation, how to get your mind right. And I have in here, I have the ancient Pali, samaditi, sama sankappa, samavaka, samaka. You know, these are all things that are very scholarly to know. They're if you're into that sort of thing, they're really amazing. You know how dissecting all of Buddhism is. But I think for these videos, I just want you to get the general idea. For instance, let's pick. I'm not going to pick a cliche like right speech. What is right livelihood? There's a good one, because you know, in this economic, politico-economic world we live in, livelihood seems to be quite a hot button issue, right? So what does 3,000-year-old philosophy have to say about a livelihood that's correct in order to lead you to an objective reality, enjoyment, and a magnificent, fully expressed potential of your life, of the energies amalgamated into you? How does that experience its maximal, what's the word I'm looking for? Nexus? Not nexus? There's a different word. At any rate, vectors aside, how do we be fulfilled? How to live a fulfilled life? Well, one way is by observing how you subsist. Let's say it like that. This says livelihood. But, well, we are in a time now where most of us have to have an occupation in order to gain support from others in order to continue to subsist and be in this life. Now, in Buddhism, if your livelihood consists of growing food. Maybe you're a farmer. That livelihood is very important to the lives of others. And we're already touching on the Bodhisattva concept, you see. None of us is an island alone. If all you do is for yourself, then you will have a short life. You will not affect others, or minimally anyway. Depends on what you do, I suppose. I don't want to argue about it. Just in a larger picture, if your livelihood is to subsist and only services you, then you're going to run out of resource, or you're going to be incredibly boring. Right? Livelihood implies for self and others, does it not? So how do you do that correctly? How do you do that in a life-affirming way? So a farmer growing vegetables and foods is doing a life-affirming thing. You could argue that a rancher who raises chickens in such quantity that they can't move around is not being very nurturing or kind to life, simply so that that rancher can slaughter as many chickens as possible to profit as much as possible from sending this out under the guise of feeding people. That's kind of a conflicted livelihood, isn't it? And we talk about that, right? In our contemporary society, we talk about it's important to have free-range chickens and free-range eggs. Certainly, it's important to feed people, but you don't need to step on the value of life in order to do that simply to make more money. That's not right. That's not life-affirming. Do you see? That's a subtlety now. Now I'll give you an example that's not subtle at all. Let's say your livelihood is made by selling ammunition and killing weapons, items made for war and conflict that take lives, human or otherwise. If that is your business, if you're a gun store, then your business, your livelihood, not life-affirming at all. I'm not saying guns don't need to be made. Perhaps there is some justification for hunting animals, but even so, that's not very life-affirming, is it? If it's solely to feed yourself and your family, an argument could be made. An argument can also be made that you don't need an AR-14 to do that, or 15, sorry. Such a weapons guy. Right? Indigenous peoples used to do it with traps and spears. It's a fine line at some point. Some Buddhists will tell you that in earlier teachings of the Buddha, he was trying to train people away from their avarice and greed and bloodlust for meat. And he just, no more. Eat only vegetables and rutabagas and live that life. But that wasn't meant to be a superior life in and of itself. It was a teaching moment. It was a way to train people away from their deep-seated desires and cravings for meat. That you don't have to have meat. But we live in modern times. So we understand that we have huge populations to feed now. And a rutabaga is alive as well. So is lettuce. For that matter, there are a great many living organisms in water. What are you going to do? So there's a certain, it's about your attitude and your intent. And so when the Buddha was asked, how do I justify this? How do I justify going on myself? Because certainly for me to continue living as a human, I must consume foods to give me energy. And by doing so, something's got to die. And the Buddha's answer was very simple. It is most critical, most important, and more to the point, enough to kill the will to kill. Again, Buddhism is about attitude and intent. Where attitude is the way we behave, intent is the way we promote or push that behavior into the next moment. And here I will introduce something, if you are not familiar with my videos, and these Four Noble Truths are the first step into this world of Buddhism, I will tell you that you and I don't live in decades or years or months or days. You and I live, as all things in the universe live, moment to moment. We are complete life in this moment, and the next moment is informed by this moment, which is why things constantly change. And in this moment, we are not what we were a moment ago. Now, I don't care if you divide those moments into Planck numbers or angstrom or what unit of measure you want to apply to it, because it really doesn't matter. The point is that when we talk in Buddhism about birth and death, the birth and death is contained within samsara, which is this condition of this Sylvain, or this Betty, or this Georgie, or this Paul, or this John, or whatever you think this encapsulated self is. It is a samsaric wave from the ocean of life process. And your wave has a rise, an existence, a decay, and a fall. It falls away. And in that samsaric existence, that arc of time, you're constantly in moment to moment, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. How many? Unfathomable, unknowable divisions. You remember back in junior high when the math teacher was talking about dividing up a pie? But on a number line, you could divide 2 into half, and you get 1. You divide 1 in half, and you have a half. You divide a half in half, and you have a quarter. You divide a quarter in half, and you have an eighth, and so on and so forth, ad infinitum. Because no matter how small you get, you could always have it, half it. Like that. So, right livelihood comes back to the same thing. What's your attitude? What's your intent? Even if you don't admit it to yourself, what does it look like? Stand outside the doors of your business and ask yourself, what am I doing here? Is it life affirming? And, you know, I know you're clever. You can justify almost anything. Just like the others, right effort. What's right effort? Now, in the scope of Buddhism, I will say this. You could say, well, right effort is helping that lady push her car out of the intersection because it broke down. That's a nice thing to do. That's good. That's all right. But in the context of Buddhism, right effort is the effort you make with your own mind toward your Buddha nature, your Buddha mind. Is every thought, word, or deed that you commit to sending you toward enlightening your life-affirming, awakened Buddha mind away from cravings, away from satisfactions of desires, and about simply appreciating and embracing the whole of the life process? No divisions, no separations. No white supremacy, no black supremacy, no green supremacy, no yellow supremacy, right? Because if everything's equanimous, then everything has the same value. Because it's all of the same process, the same ocean. No wave is better than another wave. They're just differentiated because of our samsaric mind. But our Buddha mind sees no difference. And therefore, an overwhelming sense of awe, love, concern. What do we call it? Compassion. Right? Compassion, unlike Christian compassion, isn't pity. It's understanding value, equatable value. That's very different. So the fourth noble truth actually leads us to a complete and utter reevaluation of the way we live our mundane lives. Because Buddhism isn't about anything mystical, no other planet we're going to, no life after death, no life before death, or before birth, sorry. Birth and death are conditions of samsara. And every time we instantiate a desire, it has a life, and it has a decay, and it will have a burial, a death. But to the degree that we crave it and hang on to it, we don't want to let it die, and we want to keep inventing it and keep making it, and that's suffering. Stop it. Live your life. Have your chicken. But have some thoughts about it. Have some nurturing thoughts about life. Right? Even, we could get silly with it, but what are you going to do with the flesh of the chicken? Are you going to compost it? Are you going to make food for your family, for yourself? It's have a broader point of view about life, because all of this is life, and all of it deserves to be valued. It bothers you to eat flesh because it constantly reminds you of killing? Then don't eat it. That's fine. That's good effort. That's good thinking. Your friend may not feel that way. They may feel that chicken is an essential of life, and they may figure out ways to make sure that that chicken was humanely treated while it lived, and that when it was put to death in order to feed people, that there was respect given. I mean, ask a Jew about kosher. It's not an exact equation. What I'm saying is, we all put conditions around what we do. Are those conditions valid? Are they life-affirming, or are they life-unaffirming? Are we turning a blind eye to things because we choose to have something we really don't need? But we like it, desire, we want pleasure, right? It's all about attitude and intent. And we'll get into the 8. I'll dig into those in separate videos, the Eightfold Path, and we'll dissect them. But for this video, this is all about the introduction through the 4th noble truth, is that if you want to respect all life without getting hung up on the thingness of everything, and you want to decouple your addiction to owning and possessing and labeling, so that you can have all of life as an experience in samsara, then you need to stop instantiating, rebirthing moment to moment these cravings. See, that's liberation from birth and death. That's what that means. The birth and death of your cravings, your clinging. Because as I said before, this moment will feed the next moment. So if this moment is full of, I gotta have chocolate cake right now or I'm gonna have a fit, I can guarantee you the next moment will be salivating. And the next moment will be feverishly looking for cake. Right? And we're on a trend. I don't have cake. I'm suffering. So if I could say, cake is nice, but it's neither here nor there. I don't have to have it. Cake is a magnificent invention of human beings, isn't it? It's amazing. Has a lot of stuff in it that isn't so good, though. Maybe we can make it a different way. Listen to that. Listen to that. Right thinking, right effort, decoupling from the desire. Maybe not entirely, but certainly an effort in that regard. And the next moment, I may forget about the cake altogether. I'm decoupling. I'm liberating myself from the must-have, the desire, the craving, the clinging, and I'm letting it fall into the shadows so that in this next moment, it's not birthed again. I'm liberating myself from birth and death of the cravings, of the things that make life sufferings of various sort. So that's why the 4th parameter is learn how to live better. Learn how to live from your Buddha mind. What really matters. Make sense? I so appreciate your participation in these videos, these podcasts. As I was alluding to, you can download them as audio files. The Buddhahood podcast. I think I have placards on the video. You can see that wherever you can get them. And we will do the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path. I may do another Nagarjuna video because we started on that too, and some people have made comments. So I'll dive a little deeper into that. That's a little bit more technical. That's not for everyone. But I'm getting a lot of viewers are commenting about these return to like basics, early teachings. Sometimes, we want to learn about calculus or physics or something, but we've been away from the math for a long time. And sometimes it's just good to go back to geometry and trig and relearn those things and understand how they help us understand the more involved stuff like the Mahayana teachings. So I've already talked a lot about Mahayana, Nichiren specifically, but also other Mahayana sutras. So I thought it might be nice to do a little refresher on some of these basics from the standpoint of Mahayana, which is not something that's easily seen in those early teachings because they were addressing people of much more simple, unevolved kind of thinking. Their capacities weren't like ours today. We can hold many, many abstract concepts. That's both a blessing and a curse, right? But anyway, I'm going to let you go, and I'm looking forward to the next video. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support, my patrons, and those of you who send donations. You're making all of this possible. So from the whole Sangha, Thank you. Thank you very much. Take care of your health, be kind, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Hey, thank you for being here. Did you know there's a third way you can help support this channel, and it won't cost you a cent? Yep. If you are not able to be a patron on Patreon or use the PayPal me at .com at Sifu Sylvain because you just don't have the financial fortune to help support this channel right now, you, as I say, always support this channel by watching, but you can also help us grow so that maybe one day we can get over 10,000 subscribers and YouTube will grace us with monetization. It's not a lot, but if you can make sure you're subscribed and share a video like a simple one, just go into the search criteria and type monk and you'll have a video that'll come up that's been up for years about what is a monk. You know, it's called monk, who, how, where, something like that. That might be a great introduction to somebody who doesn't understand what a monk is to begin with. It's a tool. Use this channel as a tool to help you with your bodhisattva practice, and share a video to somebody who you think, oh, I know somebody who'll benefit from watching this. And in that way, you can help us grow. And that's a really good way to help your practice along as well. So just wanted to drop that in on you in case that's something that you might find useful. Take care of yourself again, and I'll see you soon. Bye.